this next video is another video about my life in school. I'm going to talk about two teachers that I had both in middle school and then one that I had in high school. I just want to talk about why these two teachers are memorable to me. Because one was memorable in a very, very good way, and the other was memorable to me in a very negative way that I still think about to this day and still regret some decisions that I made or didn't make, I should say. And I want to start out with the teacher that was memorable to me in a bad way because I want to end on a good note. And I'm hoping this will help any teachers out there watching that maybe have some students in their classes that are a little bit different and maybe a little bit harder to handle and have certain things going on that maybe they don't quite understand, because it's hard for everybody involved, and I get that, and not every teacher is equipped to handle a student with Tourette's or a student with a disability or a student with any kind of issue. So I'm hoping this will help everyone out there, and it'll help those watching as well. Now, if you watch my other videos about school, you'll know that I was very lucky when I was in school. I had a great community. I had great students around me and teachers that they didn't know what Tourette syndrome was. I always had to teach them, which was aggravating, but they always let me do what I needed to do. Now, with that being said, there's always a bad apple here and there every once in a while, and not everyone's going to be perfect. So, first memorable teacher number one, memorable in a very, very negative way. I was in a middle school art class, and I'm not going to use names because I just don't want to call them out like that, but those watching who did go to my school probably know exactly who I'm talking about, but that's neither here nor there. I had an art teacher in middle school that made you come up to his desk, just thinking about the moment. He wanted you to stand right next to him and watch him do whatever art project that we were doing at the time, so he could tell you the right way to do art, which to me baffled me even in middle school, because growing up a dancer, I knew that art was very subjective, especially drawing, and you're in art class, I'm being forced to take it, and I shouldn't not everybody's an artist, and unfortunately, I was not an artist. Anyways, not the point. I happened to be the person lucky enough to be standing right next to him at the time, and I was ticking a lot with my legs and with my arms, I think with my arms, mostly with my legs, and so I was moving around a lot, and I will never forget him looking up at me almost as if I was stupid, and asked me, "Would you just sit still?" He didn't know I had Tourette syndrome, so not completely his fault, and I didn't say anything. I just put my head down, and I kind of just stood there quietly the rest of the time. My best friend at the time, who was standing next to me, put her arm on my back, asked me if I was ticking, and asked me if I was okay, which was really sweet of her at the time, but I was too afraid to say anything to that teacher because I didn't think he would believe me. I didn't see him as a very nice person or a nice teacher to begin with, and I was so afraid that if I said something, it would only make it worse. I regret that to this day. It's one of my bigger regrets in school, because why was I afraid to tell somebody? My entire life, I've never been afraid to tell somebody about Tourette's, and that was a golden opportunity for me, but that teacher put me in such a position where I felt very vulnerable and scared, and I didn't know what to do. When I told my mom about it, obviously she was upset, as a parent should be, but I asked her not to go and make a big deal about it because I didn't tell him what was going on. And to those watching, to parents watching, to teachers watching, if a kid can't sit still, and I'm not saying, because I know a lot of kids, they can't sit still because it's a child and there's pent-up energy and everything else going on, especially while you're in school, and it's hard to tell. Maybe talk to them privately, because you never know what's going on. I think about that moment in my head so much still, and I'm so upset with myself for not saying something. So those watching as well, don't be afraid to say anything. And even if they fight back, you are the right one. You're the one with medical records, and they have to listen to you. They have to. Don't sit there and think about it however many years from now. I'm 29 now, and I was in maybe 6th or 7th grade, so over 10 years ago, and I still think about it. I just want those watching to know that to just speak up, even when you're scared, because you might regret it later, and it's a learning opportunity for anybody involved. Now to the next teacher who made an impact on me by doing one very small gesture that I will never forget, and I don't think my mom will ever forget either. Now, this is in high school. I was in 10th grade, I believe, and this was one of my favorite teachers. He was an English teacher of mine, and I absolutely loved him. He was really great. He always made me laugh, and I loved coming to his class. Now, in my longer classes, we always made sure the teachers knew that I spent the most time with. We always wanted to make sure they knew I had Tourette's, because the classes I'm with your teacher the longest are the more opportune times where the tics are going to increase that much more and possibly be a problem. So he kind of already knew a little bit, but we did these writing prompts on Fridays every once in a while, which, being a lover of writing, I always enjoyed. It was my favorite thing that we did in the class. We had the very first prompt was to write about anything that we wanted, and me being who I am, I wrote about Tourette syndrome. I wanted him to know what it was, and I wanted him to know what it really was and what it was like for me. He was always really great. These were private journals, and he didn't share them with anybody, but a couple weeks later, my mom got a call or a letter or something in the mail asking her to come to a parent-teacher conference for me, which wasn't a usual thing for me. I was usually a pretty good student, and she was confused, but she went anyways, because you never know. And the only reason he called my mom in to that parent-teacher conference was for him to learn more about Tourette syndrome and learn absolutely anything that he could possibly do to make it easier for me. And that meant so much to me that, once again, I still think about it now. Over 10 years later, my mom still talks about that moment, because as a parent of a child with something that could go so wrong in school, that meant so much. And it was just that one little gesture, just wanting to learn more about me and about the problems that I could possibly face in his class and in the school in general. He wanted to make sure that when it got bad, he could be the teacher that I could go to, and he could comfort me and figure out a way to make it work for the both of us. And that just meant the world to both me and my mom. And that's all it really is, I think, from a student's perspective, is when you have something wrong with you, even though those of you watching, Tourette's is not something wrong with you, but when you have something that makes you a little bit different, a teacher reaching out like that one little gesture, pulling me aside, asking me if I'm okay, pulling me aside, asking me what he or she can do for me, asking my mom to make sure that they react the right way and treat it the right way, meant all that and more to me. He was already one of my favorite teachers, but that was the icing on the cake. So if there's a teacher out there watching right now, please, if there's something you're noticing and it's something that you think you should talk about to your student or your student's parents, and it's something that they've been open about already with you, take that one little step to reach out to them to find out what it is that you can do to help them, because I promise you they're going to remember it forever, and it's going to mean more to them than you could possibly know. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll be back next week. If there's anything at all you want me to talk about, please reach out to me. Please ask me the question. I'm not afraid to cover all topics. Remember, teachers out there, your students matter. They're with you the most. You're like a second parent to them, so always remember that when dealing with difficult students or somebody that might have an issue. Your class very well may be their safe space, and they might need somebody to talk to. So always remember that. One little thing goes a long way. I'll see you guys next week. Don't forget to comment and subscribe. Bye.